Okay, good evening. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Will you please rise with me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Gives me some small pleasure to note that as we always start our regular board meetings with a pledge, and then we note the passing of individuals from our community or of our community, and I don't have any to report this evening, so I'll take that as a good sign. We are joined by two of our members via a telephonic connection. Deputy Mayor Glenn Rosenblum is with us, and Trustee Sam Gonzalez is with us as well. So we do have a quorum. We have a quorum physically present, but we had 6 of our 7 members are here this evening, and we are allowed to do that through the continuing order of the governor that was put in place when from the early days of the pandemic. All right, first up on our agenda is a warrant that was distributed earlier to the board. For the record, it's one of our larger ones. The warrant is $796,121.59. If anyone has any questions on the warrant, please direct them to the treasurer.
Move adoption of the warrant.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And our 2 other members have voted yes as well, so the warrant is approved.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. The minutes of August 25th, September 29th, October 6th, 13th, and 20th were also distributed earlier. We can take those one by one. The minutes of October 25th. Any changes or edits, amendments to any of that? To that?
Move adoption of the minutes of August 25th, 2020.
It was moved by Trustee Scaglione, seconded by Trustee Gonzalez. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain. I was not present. But the minutes are approved. The minutes of September 29th. We had a full house. Any amendments, edits to those minutes?
Move adoption of the minutes from September 29th, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Again, unanimous, 6-0. The minutes of October 6th.
Move adoption of the minutes from October 6th, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, 6-0 again. The minutes of October 13th.
Move adoption of the minutes from October 13th, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in, I think it was Spiro was the second. It was either Spiro or Gonzalez. Spiro?
Whatever.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And again, 6-0. And finally, the minutes of October 20th.
Move adoption of the minutes from October 20th, 2020.
Can I get a second from Glenn or Sam? Okay, or from both? All right, all in favor say aye. Moved and seconded, rather, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or noes? Okay, so 6-0. Great, thank you all. I've got a few announcements for this evening. Let me just start off with Halloween. It's Saturday. We've been saying for months now, be safe in general, particularly be safe on Saturday evening. Don't know how many people will be out and about, but just be aware that folks might be. And I want to repeat a couple of things that we've said before. The CDC guidelines for trick-or-treating, for Halloween activities, were placed into 3 areas of risk or risk factors. The lowest was stay home, don't do anything, obviously the lowest risk. The medium level, the middle one was have a Halloween party for your kids, carve a pumpkin, have the people that you normally are around or physically with over, something like that. And then the highest level of risk is traditional trick-or-treating, both going out and doing that and opening the front door and passing out candy to kids. And our advice has been, hey guys, this is a personal choice for everybody who lives here in the village. You decide, what you want to do. What are you comfortable with? And I know there are people that are going to go out. They're not necessarily going to go trick-or-treating, but just kind of get out on their block, things like that. It's really up to you to decide how you want to do it. The one thing that we had asked was be nice to the kids. If you're not participating, just turn the porch light off, okay? Or put out a sign or something just to keep it the right way. That would just be helpful. Stay in the spirit of it. 2 other things that are worth noting is we are going to, as we have in years past, close New Broadway to non-resident traffic. Spoken with some of the folks who live in Weber Park. May not be as many people out this year, but it'll still be little kids and families, and kids will be excited and they won't be able to see what they're doing if they're in a costume and a mask. So it's a way of adding some safety in one of the most narrow streets in the village, and one that's usually highly trafficked on Halloween. The other is, I announced last week that there will be a curfew on a Halloween night at 9 o'clock. Everybody under the age of 18 will be expected to be home. Please make sure that your kids and other young people know about that. A couple of other announcements. The chair of the Sleepy Hollow Environmental Advisory Committee had reached out to this board, to Dave Avrin, had reached out to say that a longtime member, Jessica Fox, has agreed to be the co-chair of SHIAC, and that's terrific. We are glad that she's agreed to step up and do that. And also, Mr. Avrin asked that we confirm an appointment to that committee as well. And that's Karen Smith Vistola, who resident 95 Beekman, who has participated in various SHIAC events and other village activities over the years, and has expressed a strong interest in being part of the committee. So I would like to appoint her this evening, and I'd like, I don't know if we need to, as a board, approve the co-chair, but I would just like to acknowledge it in a resolution that Jessica Fox will be the co-chair, and approving the appointment of Ms. Vistola. And lastly, I wanted to add a new item to the agenda, a resolution. There was an email that went out recently, very recently, to the board members about the need for an update to our hazard mitigation plan, which is something we adopted in late 2014. There are a couple of major grants that we are eligible for if we have an updated hazard mitigation plan. The plan actually needs to be updated, and there's a proposal from the vendor who actually did the plan for us back in 2014 to do that. And if we can get that approved, the hiring of them, and get the updated plan in by the end of November, it makes us eligible for a bunch of grants we're otherwise not eligible for. And these include some large FEMA grants that we'd really like to be able to take advantage of. Doesn't mean we're going to get them, but we know we're not going to get them if we don't have a plan, updated plan in place. So I wanted to discuss that with the board as an added agenda item for this evening. So that's my announcements for the evening. And I guess I have another one because Mr. Giacchio is just telling me that.
Before we have the next agenda item, the fire department ambulance corps, I
Well,
think
let me
one.
finish with my announcements and then,
I already said it was the last item. I think.
please, sir, allow me to finish them. So it just, as always, be safe, be well, take care of yourself and the folks around you. Now somebody else is
You're
telling me
finished?
that I'm. Oh, right. Next week is a lot of important elections. I think all elections are important, but next week we're voting for president. We're voting for several local and state offices as well. As always, all of us, everybody on this board urges everyone to get out and vote. So please do that. A couple of voting locations have changed for districts here in Sleepy Hollow. And that's District 1 and 5. 1 is you, Mike, I believe. And 5 is this side of Beekman, just east of Beekman Avenue. If you have any questions about where your voting place is, you can call the clerk, the village clerk, Ms. McCarthy Tompkins at 366-5106 or 995-5700. And if it's whatever your voting place may be, call the clerk and she will let you know where it is. We've also put a link on our website on the homepage listing where those changed voting sites places will be, and so you can go there as well. And as always, the polls will be open at 6 a.m. and close at 9 p.m. So be an American and get out there and vote, please. Ms. McCarthy Tompkins, do you have an announcement about where those changed polling places are?
Yes, District 1's and District 5 will be going to the Galgano Senior Center at 55 Elm Street.
Instead of,
They're split between two firehouses.
okay.
So I don't want
So everyone from District 1 and
1 and 5
and 5
go to the
will
senior
go to the
center.
senior center?
Mhm.
Okay. So if you used to go to either firehouse on Cortlandt Street,
It's the firehouse on Portland Street or the firehouse on Lawrence Avenue.
okay, so
Or
if you
split
used to
up.
go to either one of those sites, you can't go there now, and you will go to the senior center.
Oh, wait. So there's 2 districts in each firehouse. They split the districts.
Okay.
So there's still 1 in each firehouse, and then 1 and 5.
I was going to say, if you went to either firehouse to vote, check with the clerk or check
Yes.
with the
Just double
website just
check.
to make sure that you know where
Mhm.
you're supposed to go.
Yes.
Okay? Great, and we're going to depart from our published agenda for a moment for a special announcement.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Mike Tavano couldn't be here, Chief Mike Tavano, so he asked me to present you guys with something. For all the work you've actually done for us, you really do have a thankless job. I know it pays a lot of money. 52 cents an hour, I think, from what I heard once. So the Sleepy Hollow Fire Department wanted to do something for you, and I think the Chief of EMS, Sleepy Hollow Ambulance Corps, also wants to say something.
I don't have to say anything.
So Angela doesn't want to say anything, so thank you. But we did get everyone on the board something. To Sam and Glenn, I can't Zoom it to you, so you'll have to stop by Village Hall, all right?
Is that a puppy in there?
Yes. Puppies for everybody. It's like Oprah, everybody gets a car.
Oh, how nice, look at that.
Wow.
Wow, cool.
Thank you, John.
What?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, look at those. That's so nice, thank
Is
you.
that cool or what?
Wow.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
And yes, it has pockets.
Wow, that's really
This
nice.
is so beautiful.
Can we show this?
There, right here. Do it this way.
Oh, wow.
You guys see
It's so nice, Angela, thank you.
Oh, you guys outdid yourselves.
This
That's-
is
This is
so
beautiful.
nice.
Thank you.
Wow.
I, and probably have half a chance of actually getting to wear it myself and not the rest of my household.
This is so
Beautiful.
nice.
Look at that.
That's neat.
Thanks, Angela.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for recognizing that one size does not fit all. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much. This
Thank
is
We
you.
hope you
really
enjoy
nice.
those guys, and you guys at the Zoom meeting, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you to
So much.
everybody.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Wow.
And all of your members again for
Wow.
everything you do.
And Richie gets nothing.
Oh my God, so nice.
Okay, we have a series of reports this evening, and we're going to start off with a first-time report from Public Space Council, which I will remind people is an appointed committee, essentially, of this board, meaning that I appoint the people on it, and they serve if they're approved by the trustees. It serves as an advisory group, and it came out of an effort that was led by John Levy with the Riverwalk, when we had a group of interested Sleepy Hollow folks who provided guidance on the design and ultimately implementation of the Riverwalk. And then it kind of morphed into, we had another design committee that we officially needed to have for the reconstruction of the Beekman Avenue Bridge. And then we've had other projects come up where we've needed that same design input. So decided to formalize these more ad hoc committees into the Public Space Council, and it continues to serve in that advisory capacity. There's been some misunderstanding about some parts of it, but it is an advisory group. Ultimately, decisions in the end are made the way they always are. The trustees make them, or if it's a planning board decision, the planning board makes the decisions, and so on. And the Public Space Council is ably chaired by my wife, Lynn Moffett Ray. And I say that because it is ably chaired, not because she's my wife. Welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the mayor that this is my second time appearing before, not the
Yes.
first.
See,
See?
It was memorable.
Yes, it was.
I'm like, Okay, so you can tell I really am her husband, because I've already forgotten, okay?
Before discussing the public space councils, I wanted to extend congratulations to the 3 Sleepy Hollow women who envisioned, organized, and constructed the community mural last month.
Yes.
And that's Kirsten Harris, Deanna Loha, and Erin Carney. It's no small feat what they have accomplished. I mean, to coordinate the work with so many volunteers and artists, to create a singular community statement on a scale such as that is new for this village, and they really are to be commended. The Public Space Council is currently engaged in a number of projects, and in no particular order. Edge on Hudson River Walk. Phase 1 of 3 was approved by the Planning Board last week. We are currently working with Edge and landscapers Nelson Birdwoltz with the master planner Charles McKinney to define the program for the interpretive center in Phase 2. As an aside, we were not asked to consider the programming for the piers in Phase 1. The second is the traffic island on Route 9 at Historic Hudson Valley and the Old Dutch Church. The council recommended to the board that Margie Ruddick Landscape be retained. We are meeting with Margie and her team on Friday to look at her latest drawings. Urban Strategies is setting up a meeting with the director of the Mid-Hudson Regional Department of Transportation and various DOT officials in Albany to meet with Margie and the mayor to discuss her plans. 3, DeVries Park Mechanical River Restoration. Margie Ruddick will be showing the council her current drawings on Friday. I believe that the removal of invasive species is about to begin. A guiding principle to Margie's work in restoration of compromised and degraded sites is community engagement and stewardship, and the council will be assisting her in that effort. We've already had a positive conversation with the chair of the Sleepy Hollow High School Science Department, and we will be contacting various volunteer organizations to help, with the help of Deanna Loha, as we move forward. Margie herself is reaching out to her peers at Scenic Hudson and Riverkeeper, among others. A number of council members, public council members, are working with the Planning Board, SHIAC, and the Tree Committee to send to the Board of Trustees recommendation for updating and streamlining the process for street tree plantings and maintenance, and for the trees sited in public parks. Although outside of the Public Space Council's jurisdictions, trees located on private property will also be part of those recommendations. And finally, the work on the Common over the past year has been really driven by the LDC and WSP, and the interaction we've had with the progress there is about the border between DeVries and the Common. And that's actually, that will be a very important border because it should look seamless. That's my report. Any questions?
I would just also note that the council includes members of this board, 2 members of the planning board, 3. I would also add that there are members of this board, 3 members of the planning board, and some people who've been involved since John's original Riverwalk committee.
Yeah.
So there's been an effort to make sure that all parts of the village are represented, and we appreciate the work that you all do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you and the council for taking the torch and even making it stronger and better in terms of what you're doing. It's just the people you've brought in, there's the alliances that you've formed and the connections you've had from your past experiences. Charles McKinney and, just really talented, designers and architects of land. So thank you, Lynn. And I know there's great things for Sleepy Hollow because you're working so hard at it. So thank you. And the council.
And the council. I will extend the thanks to them. I'm seeing them.
Anyone else?
I just want to say, it's being involved with it, I'm very excited to see all these plans drawn up, and you guys are doing a great job. It's very exciting what's coming down the pipe.
Good, thanks.
Any questions from Glenn or Sam? Okay.
He's muted.
Sign language, all right. Well, thank you,
Thanks, Lynn.
and we all look forward to the third appearance. Okay, so also presenting for the first time tonight is Matt Arone from our Recreation Department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board of Trustees. Recreation report for October. Haven't done a full report in a few months, so happy to have some recent programs that we've accomplished and some upcoming events to talk about. Since our last report, we were able to sneak in an additional party in the park down at Horan's Landing back in September. We had Funk and Disorderly play, which was the band, and we had a really good crowd, but everybody was safe, and we practiced social distancing. We had a few of those this summer, and they were very well received, considering the situation. People couldn't get out of their house, so we're looking forward to do a few more of those again next summer. Speaking of Horan's Landing, this past Saturday, there was a pop-up craft sale down at Horan's Landing that in years past was held in one of the church basements, and it was very successful. The table fees from the vendors went to the Kids Club as a fundraiser, and Stephanie Fuller reached out to Mr. Giaccio to find a spot who recommended Horan's Landing, and we did it down in Horan's, and it ended up being a nice day, and everybody had a great time, so it was, hopefully we can host that again in the future as well. A pumpkin decorating event was held on Saturday, October 17th at Kingsland. We had close to 100 participants attend in different time slots, and we spread them out through the park for social distancing to keep everybody safe, and the masks were mandatory. And we also allowed families to ride in the back of the trailers for hay rides. Our stand-up paddleboard yoga instructor ran a Halloween costume paddle at Horan's Landing on Saturday the 17th. 15 participants participated in costume on the Hudson River, and it was some really cool pictures.
Mermaids, Aquaman.
No, more like witches and goblins and ghosts, and a headless horseman, believe it or not. I don't know how they saw, but we hope to make that an annual event because it was really special. And this past Friday, we held a drive-in movie at Kingston Point Park. We had over 65 cars pull into the park and enjoy the movie. We had a Halloween movie, Hocus Pocus. The weather was perfect, and we had many compliments. Our police department and our park staff were very helpful and deserve to be thanked for their assistance to getting all the cars in and out. Our ambulance corps was also there on hand in case of emergency. So it was a great event, and hopefully we'll do some more of those in the future as well. Upcoming events. On Saturday this week, which is Halloween, we'll be holding some of our smaller Halloween activities at Kingston Point Park. At 11 a.m., we'll do some arts and crafts and more pumpkin decorating at the pavilion. At 1 p.m., we'll have Halloween pictures and some pony rides for the kids at the Davis Pavilion. And then at 3 to 5, we'll have the Truck or Treat event on the grass. All the kids should come in costume, and we'll do some social distancing and wear masks for everybody to be safe. So hopefully we have a good day on Saturday. Update on the senior citizens. They've been venturing back in the building in small numbers over the past few weeks, which is nice to see. Social distancing and masks must be worn before anybody comes into the building. They met as a group and had lunch on Monday the 19th, and they've attempted to have a few small bingo games on Tuesday. Many of the seniors are still hesitant to come inside and attend these events, but it's good to see some of them are coming out and visiting us again. We're still doing our outdoor group, some of our outdoor exercise groups. We're walking on Fridays at 8:30. And our exercise classes that are held in Kingsland on Monday and Wednesday mornings, we're starting to move them inside the center as well because the weather is getting colder. So if it's a small group, we'll let them meet inside the building. Senior yoga class instructed by the gym guys is on Thursday mornings, and as mentioned, we're also going to try to move them inside as the weather changes in the weeks to come. We organized a take-home ceramics class on Thursday the 22nd. So instead of holding the class inside our senior building, which we have done in the past, we ordered the ceramic kits for the seniors, and they were able to take them home, create the projects at home, and then bring them back to us. and we'll bring them to the ceramic center so they can be fire finished and glazed. So that was a good modification to our program, which the seniors enjoy. And the lunch meal delivery has never stopped through the past few months and still going on. And we're also driving our seniors to the grocery store once a week on Wednesdays if anybody needs help. Our after-school program started in September, and we'll continue to run that as long as the school district continues to run the schedule they are now, some hybrid schedule. It's been tough in the last few weeks with all the changes the school's been going through, and our program has suffered because of it. Currently, we only have 15 children enrolled as opposed to the usual 40 plus. So my staff and I have worked hard to make many changes and set up the protocols to ensure safety, and thus far, we've been successful. The families that have chosen to enroll are happy with the program. We've had to limit staff hours simply because we do not have as many workers. We do not need as many workers because the numbers are so low. There have been many last-minute schedule changes with the school over the past few weeks, including yesterday and today. So, but we've been able to stay open so far. However, if the school system does shut down and goes back to full remote like they did in March, we'd most likely follow suit and have to cancel or postpone the program. Some parks items. Our parks are all open, as you guys know, and almost every amenity is available. We still have our bathrooms closed. They would be beginning to close this time for the year anyway. We have portable bathrooms still at each park. Our basketball courts are still closed, and we're not renting any of the pavilions for parties. However, we have a lot of requests from local groups like the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts that want to use the pavilions for some meetings, and we're allowing them to do that. The fall youth baseball season was played at DeVries, and that just finished up. We allowed them to play because this summer program was run safely and successfully. We currently are still not allowing any of the adult groups to use the fields for softball games, but we are allowing the Sleepy Hollow Football Club, which is youth soccer, to practice at DeVries during the weeknights under the lights now that baseball is over. Some other park items. We fixed the lights at DeVries Park Pavilion so it can be used by groups at night if necessary. As I just mentioned, the local Boy Scouts have been requesting to use that. A playground medic has been in numerous times over the past few weeks to repair the rubberized surface at the playgrounds at Barnhart Park. Progress is being made with the new propane company to connect the tank to the heating units at the platform tennis courts. Mr. Giaccio, Richie Gross, and I met recently with the company's representative to map out all the plans and to get ready to dig the trenches. So we're still on schedule to have some heat there by the winter. A new maintenance gate was installed next to the Kwanzaa hut next to Barnhart Park to protect the propane tank and to prevent people from getting behind the building, which they were doing. We purchased a replacement playground piece for Barnhart Park because one of the old units was broken, and we're going to have that installed this week. Some new trees were planted at Barnhart Park last week. I'd like to thank the park staff and the DPW workers for their hard work in planting those trees, and also thanks to the tree committee members for all their input on the new trees and where to place them. Tom Lewis of Trillium Invasive Species Management has been down to DeVries Park, as Lynn mentioned before, to help with the invasive species, and they've been at the park a few times in recent weeks. We have 5 private organizations that have been or are using our parks for special classes because they have been not been able to use their own buildings, and they've been able to rent some time and space at the park. So it's been great to help out the community and also to keep some people in the park and keeping it active. I've been involved with the park improvement projects at Barnhart and DeVries, and that's it for parks. Just a few miscellaneous items. The school district's athletic study committee meetings continued again this month. We didn't meet over the summer. They are run by the new athletic director at the high school, so I attended the meeting via Google Meet on Wednesday, October 21st, so that's good that they've continued those. There's a window in the senior citizen bus that was broken last month overnight in the parking lot. We're not sure how it was broken, who did it, but we were able to keep the bus on the road, and we purchased a new replacement window for the bus, so we're back in action. And finally, since we're discouraging people from coming into the rec offices at this time, we'd like residents to create their own community pass account through our rec program so they can register for any program. That's register at communitypass.net, and then once you create your account, You'll get an email saying how to log on, and you can log on to, you can enroll for any of our programs through Community Pass, and that means you don't have to come in, visit us, and it makes it a lot safer for everybody. And that's it for our report. If anybody has any questions or comments?
I'm always, maybe not amazed anymore, but it's really great to see that you can keep a full program together even in times like these. And with some ingenuity and thought, been able to figure out, okay, well, here's a way that we can actually make this work. And I think that's really appreciated by the folks that live here. So thanks.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, Sleepy Hollow Police Department. Chief Boetti, welcome back.
Good evening. So I just want to start out with some Halloween information. We posted this to the village website. It's the New York State Department of Health suggestions. One of them that I really want to hit on is as far as apartment buildings. And it reads, communities can come together to trick or treat around the block or other outdoor spaces. Meaning that if you do live in a big apartment building, to take your trick or treating outside. So we're not passing each other in the hallways, giving us more open space to social distance. Another great suggestion he makes is that if you are giving out candy at your property, go to the property line. This way, again, you're not having people cross each other coming up and down your walkway. I do want to hit on one other thing. Halloween is Saturday this year, and there may be a lot of Halloween parties out there. We urge everybody not to drink and drive. There's probably other alternate means, whether it be public transportation or Uber. We have extra manpower on that day, or extra staffing rather. For that night, we will be conducting DWI safety checkpoints at various locations throughout the village throughout the night. So we just want to make everybody aware of that. Secondly, we have an opportunity that we're going to take as far as a new program that's coming out, held by Westchester County. It's called the Westchester County Domestic Violence High Risk Team. In this, the officers are trained in trauma-informed investigation using the Jackie Campbell lethal risk assessment method. It's basically 12 questions that the officer will ask the person of a domestic incident, and based on their responses, the officer will be able to determine whether it's a high risk, moderate risk, or low risk case, and will call a 24/7 staffed hotline that's located at the Westchester County Medical Center. The advocate that answers the call will speak with the victim, so the officer will be out of the room, and offer safety planning and resources. And this will also start the connection to victim services. So it gets the ball rolling quicker and faster. Last thing I wanted to report on was our speed data analysis that we did at Hudson and Beekman. Over the week, almost 21,000 cars were analyzed. The speed limit there is 25 miles an hour. They found a total of 206 enforceable violations. Now what that means is that the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. There's a 5 mile per hour deviation, so it starts clicking it at 30 miles an hour and lists that as a violation. The average speed was clocked at 17 miles an hour. The fastest speed was 50 miles an hour. The slowest speed was 7 miles an hour. Gave us best times of enforcement. Will be, this may be a shock to you, is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then again from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right around the commuter time. Now, although this may seem like low numbers, we have to keep in mind they had almost 7,000 cars a day going by there, and the Edge on Hudson site isn't developed. The workforce is scaled back, and people aren't using public transportation as much. They're commuting more. So when this COVID clears up and Edge is running, we can expect a lot more traffic down there.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Great. Any
questions on
questions
that?
for the chief on that?
So I spoke to the chief today because I'm involved with this project, and I really appreciate the chief's efforts, and I want to thank Tarrytown Police Department, Chief John Barbalett, for lending us this equipment. It really provides some interesting data and really valid data. 3,000 cars per day travel down
Seven.
Beacon.
7,
Was it 21,000 for the week?
21,000 for the week.
Okay. So for the whole
That's
week,
going
yeah.
one way.
So that's, a staggering amount of vehicles to begin with. But, this is kind of an interesting time in our village because we have a lot of people visiting, even though there is a pandemic. I was down there myself a couple of times this weekend just to see how busy it was down there. And, there was more cars parked on both sides of Lower Beekman, which does slow traffic down. When it's open, people tend to, speed a little bit more. And, there was just more activity, so cars slowed down just to look. And there's also a barrel that one of the local businesses put in the middle of the road to slow cars down with a sign on it. So I think the chief is going to remove that barrel next Monday, and, he's going to take samples for another week just to see what the difference is.
Right. It also serves our needs also because we'll get the effect as if we did put a traffic calming measure
Right.
there.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, and, I think we both agreed that it was valuable data to have the effect of an obstacle in the middle of the street. So it's useful data. So it kind of reflects the lower speeds than we expected, which, we weren't surprised at that result. So, but I do anticipate higher speeds once that gets removed.
And
the-
something else to keep in mind also is the time of year. We are Sleepy Hollow, so there was more pedestrian traffic, and
Right,
they were drawn to that new development down there, I'm sure.
right.
So with more people on the sidewalks, people tend to slow down to see what is going on
Yeah.
around them.
You'll
Right.
have less tourists as well, so it would be more indicative of what's going on normally.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having the something out there in the street and then taken away and, like,
Yeah, that
There's
wasn't
a-
the plan. We were going to do it the other way, but I think this is fine. We had the obstacle for the first week, so now we'll take it away. And cars don't realize that there's a sensor there. It's kind of hidden. It doesn't reflect the speed in
Yeah.
real time, so when people see that, whatever their speed is, they tend to slow down, which is another method. The chief was explaining this all to me, but I just want to thank the chief and his department for really taking a lead on this. This is all to look at the speeds of traffic on Lower Beekman. We got some complaints, and we've witnessed it ourselves, but we really need data to support what we want to do, whether that be a raised crosswalk or an obstacle maybe in the middle of the street that's a little prettier than a barrel. So, it's an important part of our village right now, and we want to keep it safe.
And keep in mind, this is strictly speed data.
Yeah.
I mean, from the volume anywhere from 7,000 to 3,000, depending on the day, what traffic we're getting, it could be a volume problem. And I would bet that eventually it's going to be a volume problem. So you
Yeah.
still may need that speed hump, because as we know, the state law only allows us to lower the speed limit to 25. So it may indeed should be lowered, but we can't, so we can use a traffic calming device to make it safer.
As the chief pointed out, he's anticipating, changes down there with a supermarket. Just picture a large supermarket, however many square feet, attracting people from all over our area, not just Sleepy Hollow. So we have to think about that. And whatever implementations we make can't be an impediment to that road also. We don't really want to put a speed hump. That's not really, it doesn't really qualify for that. So it would have to be a traffic calming measure, if anything, so. But we'll get back to you with the rest of the data when we get it.
Great. Maybe we could ask council to look into some of the kinds of traffic calming measures we could put in. It would be nice to do something that's a little bit more unique to Sleepy Hollow. I was thinking something more historical. You used to have people, justice was meted out in a different way a couple hundred years ago, and you had the stocks you put people in and things like that. But maybe a post in the middle of the road and speeders would be tied to it for a day, and
Put a headless horseman there.
and it could, as opposed to paying a fine, and it might encourage them not to do it anymore once they see what it's like to be in the middle of the street when people are speeding by. But
We may need a volunteer first.
yeah, if I don't have any coffee in the morning, I probably wouldn't notice. Seriously, it would be nice to do something, to do some kind of traffic calming that is not the normal same thing. It's interesting that just one of those big orange cones is enough to get people to slow down. And even if it ends up just being that.
Well, there was also a sign there that said, "Drive like your kids live here."
In
So-
front of this barrel.
In front of the barrel.
Yeah.
So I think that people see that and like, ooh.
Well, we have to keep in mind also that there's a lot of construction vehicles bringing equipment down there and trusses, and, I mean, it's a full-on construction site, so whatever we do has to also work for that,
Yeah, you
And
have
we
to
don't
be
want
able to get
trucks
around
knocking
it.
over whatever we build
Yeah.
the first day, so it's tricky. But this is great stuff. Thank you again, Chief.
I'm sure you're welcome. Just one last thing is we are trying to work out the logistics for our annual toy drive for Christmas. We're, like I said, still looking to work out the logistics and social distancing and making sure everything's wiped down and how we're gonna accomplish that. So, and that's it for tonight.
Okay, great. Any questions on any other part of the chief's report? Sam, Glenn, you guys? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board, you may do so from the center of the room in our new mic setup. Please be reminded, our new microphone setup. And please be reminded that you're restricted to 3 minutes. Does anyone wish to address the board? If not, I'll just remind you that we have another opportunity later on in the evening. And so we'll move on to our resolutions. Just a reminder that when we finish the 4 that are on the agenda, I'd like to consider 2 others, one for SHIAC and the other for the hazard mitigation plan. So, somebody want to take the first one?
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow authorizing change orders 1 through 5 for the Continental Street Sewer Project. Whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow has entered into a construction contract with MTS Infrastructure LLC for the Continental Street Sewer Project, and whereas the construction contract for this work now requires approval of change orders to include additional construction costs as detailed in the attached change orders 1 through 5. Whereas Dolph Rotville Engineering, the village's consulting engineer for this project, has recommended that these change orders be approved. And whereas the cost of these change orders total $39,752.80. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees herein authorizes the administrator to execute change orders 1 through 5 as attached. And be it further resolved that the village treasurer will adjust the project budget to reflect an increase of $39,752.80. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No abstentions or nays, so that was approved 6-0.
Resolution of the mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow to approve a survey for the Clinton Street Streetscape Project. Whereas the Westchester County Planning Department is designing the Clinton Street Streetscape Project for the village, And whereas a survey is needed to complete the design for this project. And whereas the Westchester County Planning Department has solicited proposals for this service and has identified as Spinelli Surveying as the lowest proposal in the amount of $7,985. And whereas funds for this project have been secured through a community development block grant. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached proposal from Spinelli Surveying in the amount of $7,985 to complete a survey for the Clinton Street Streetscape Project. So moved.
Moved and seconded, Scaglione and Gonzalez. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow to set public hearing for short-term parking. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby schedules a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, at 7 p.m., or shortly thereafter at Village Hall, to hear and consider comments from members of the public regarding installation of a parking limit of 15 minutes of one space to be determined on the west side of Cortlandt Street between DePeyster Street and Beekman Avenue from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Residents and taxpayers of the Village of Sleepy Hollow are entitled to attend and be heard at said hearing. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded by Glenn, okay, by the deputy mayor. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous as well. We have another streetscape. Somebody read that?
Resolution of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow to retain landscape architect to oversee the Hudson Plaza project. Whereas the Village Board is desirous of hiring a landscape architect to oversee the Hudson Plaza project. Whereas Yost Design Landscape Architecture LLC has submitted a proposal to provide this service. And whereas the Village Administrator has reviewed this proposal and has found it to be acceptable. And whereas funds for this project have been secured through a community benefits grant with matching funds coming from Edge on Hudson. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached proposal from Yost Design Landscape Architecture LLC in the amount of $7,175 to oversee the Hudson Plaza project. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's approved. I am appointing Karen Smith-Vistola to the Sleepy Hollow Environmental Advisory Committee. And I would also like to acknowledge that Jessica Fox is stepping up to serve as co-chair. Could I get a motion to approve my appointment that also acknowledges Ms. Fox's taking on the co-chair responsibilities?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Thank you both. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous as well. And we thank both of them for their continuing contributions to the village. Last resolution, we had a proposal for a hazard mitigation plan that was distributed earlier, and it goes against our normal practice of considering something that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about in a work session, but time is of the essence, and we have an opportunity to potentially score some major assistance and some grants, so I think it behooves us to discuss and move on this. Mr. Diaccio, you want to walk through?
We have a motion to retain Cash and Associates to update the village's hazard mitigation at a cost of $19,800.
Okay, can we get somebody to move and second that, then we can have a discussion on it?
Yes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, so, discussion. You want to start it off?
Sure. So we recently learned we're applying for 2 FEMA grants. One is to move the DPW garage to the Sleepy Hollow Common, which we know we're intending on doing, but another one is to repair the bulkhead at Ichabod's Landing. Both grants, there's significant money in the FEMA pool of grant money, so we do think we have a good chance of getting that Ichabod's bulkhead project approved, but obviously we'll see. In order to do that, we have to have a current hazard mitigation plan. We were one of the first villages to do a hazard mitigation plan. We did it back in 2014. FEMA sees a hazard mitigation plan as having a lifespan of 5 years, so ours has expired but most of the items in the hazard mitigation plan still apply. Some of them, many of them, we've accomplished. There's a lot of recommendations that was made, and we have done some work to accomplish those things. So we just have to clean up the hazard mitigation plan, update it with any new changes that the village has. And in order to apply for these 2 grants, we need to have that current, and we also have to have it done by the end of November. So that's why the urgency of the timing. I reached out to the company that did it back in 2014, and because they are so familiar with it, they said they could get it done in that time frame, and they're much cheaper than if we do it brand new with a new company. But I will say, I think Trustee Levy was involved with the first one, right?
Yeah.
And I would suggest that you, no, weren't you? Well,
No.
which one's too
Wasn't
far?
on the board then.
Okay, my bad, I thought you were.
2014?
Yeah, we are, all right. Well, I would recommend that you're on it this time, because
That's what you meant.
the village board has to approve it. So the more input we have from the village board, and your background as a firefighter would help. So we do meet with the department heads, we go over what we think are hazards. Could be environmental hazards, could be, internal things that we have that could be improved. So and now we learned that something we probably didn't include in the first one was a pandemic is something that we need to think about in the future. So there's some things that we need to change, but we're going to work hard to get it done by the end of November. I do want to mention this. I know some people in the audience might care about this. We are really intent on getting that Ichabod's bulkhead repaired. It's such a very costly project. So if we can get this grant money, it would be a great thing. So glad to hear that the board is willing to do this right now.
Well, Anthony, one of the things that the board charged you to do was figure out a way for us to kind of pay for the bulkhead, and we definitely are interested in any option, and this is a really wonderful news. I know you sent an email either yesterday or today, but it was welcomed, and I just want to know, the firm that we are considering hiring, that's an environmental engineer firm, or what are they
They're
actually consulting?
Engineering firm.
Okay.
That does it, yeah.
And the name of that firm?
Cashin Associates, Cashin.
And how did you find out about the grant opportunity? Was that from Millennium, or?
Both.
Okay.
Both the
Fiona?
LDC, Jenny Nolan, is working on the DPW project, and Millennium is the one that found it as a viable option for the bulkhead.
And who's going to write the grant for the bulkhead work?
It's going to be Millennium.
Millennium,
Yeah.
okay.
And they learned that you needed to have an updated hazard mitigation plan. A lot of communities have attached onto the county's hazard mitigation plan, but what we've learned is that it's actually not nearly as thorough as our individual one. And we also learned that the county might take a little longer than this, and we might not get it done in time. So we made the decision, let's do it ourselves and get it done, and if we
Or
work
we
hard,
are
we'll get it done.
Yeah, that's
hopefully
money well
about
spent.
to make that decision, to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's money well spent. I mean, being a community that most of we have a shoreline, a vast shoreline, and that lends itself to problems when there's storms and, high water. So, it was a good move to do it in 2014, and to keep it updated is even a better move. So,
If you think about it, we've had everything from floods to
Tornado.
tornadoes to pandemics to fires. We haven't had a train derailment yet, but.
Oh, boy.
You had to say it.
It's 20, it's
We have
20,
a train, we
say
have a
that.
train line.
it's
We have a
2020.
river.
Be careful, be careful.
Don't say that.
Okay.
I don't think we've had an earthquake either. So.
No, actually, we have, but
We have
the
had
earthquakes here are so mild that nobody notices. You have to be on the top of in Manhattan, like above the 80th story, and then you can actually feel the building moving in the
Right.
earthquake. So, not a good feeling at all, so.
I'm happy to help with this, and I might recruit a couple of people I know who have experience maybe a little different than mine, but, you know, within that realm. I can think of one who's a chief in the fire department, in our fire department here. So, you know, he would add some value to this.
Great. Any further discussion on this? Then all in,
Absolutely, have to move forward.
okay. I didn't hear what you
He
said.
said absolutely move forward.
Yeah, he wants to
Oh,
do it.
okay. Thank you. Or I didn't understand what
I know.
what you said.
Took a second.
Thank you. Any further discussion,
That's
comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous as well. Great. Thanks for getting this in front of us, Mr. Giacchio.
Yeah.
Okay, any
Thank
old
you.
business or new business? Okay, communications,
I just have a reminder. Tuesday, November 3rd, Department of Public Works is closed, so there will be no garbage pickup on Tuesday. Everybody will be picked up on Monday instead, Monday, November 2nd, and recyclables on Wednesday only. That's all.
thank you. All right, then if there aren't any others, we'll move on to public comments. Would anyone like to address the board? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, Mayor and Board of Trustees, good evening. I wanted to know if there was any update on the fire pit that we discussed back in September.
Yes. We discussed it in a work session, and what we're going to do is enforce the existing regulations in a stronger way than has been done before. There's a couple of things that we talked about. One is, in order to apply a stricter standard than what is allowed under the state code, we would have to get the approval of the state to do that. So it's not just changing the village code in a public hearing and so on. We'd have to go and make a convincing argument to New York State to allow us to apply a stricter standard. But a review of the existing standard showed that it's actually pretty strong. And what we need is for people to call it in when they see a fire pit being used in used sloppily or in a, I'm blanking on all the words tonight, non-careful manner.
So
and
Unsafe?
unsafe,
Yeah.
all of
Hazardous?
those things. So, or people walking away from it and not, all of those things. But we don't know necessarily when that's happening. Neighbors do. So what we need is for people to call it in and say, 5 feet away from my house, there's a 4-foot flame coming out of this. And then we will dispatch, as appropriate, village folks, including the fire department, to deal with that.
Is there any rules on people with their grills on top of a wooden porch? It's just, I watched the person behind me and they had flames coming from the top, flames going from the bottom, and I'm like.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I mean, is that a stupid thing to do?
I just
Yes.
don't know, because they don't seem to know how to use a grill. I don't know, like, how could you have flames shooting from the top and from the bottom, and now you're on a wooden porch? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Unfortunately, there's no way to completely legislate against stupidity. And on the village level or the national level or anywhere in between. But we'll have to get back to you on what we might have covered on that.
I just want to add,
It's allowed in 1 and 2 family dwellings.
On the wooden porch?
Thank you.
yeah, I just want to add the state code, the state fire code for fire pits. Had a discussion with the fire chief and Sean McCarthy, our fire inspector. It's 30.3, and the caveat is, anytime there's a hazardous situation that you feel is hazardous to you, whether that be smoke blowing in your windows or creating a hazardous condition, it's a broad term, but you can call 911 and report it, and that may curtail the future behavior of these people if they think that that's something that's normal, because it's not. And if it affects other people especially, it's not. So that's really, pretty strong wording and pretty strong code. So we looked at it as a board and said it doesn't apply, all those distance regulations don't apply to 1 and 2 family homes, which, I guess it makes sense because people have backyards, but, just keep in mind for a fire pit, if it's a windy night and it's blowing into your window or onto your property and you feel like it's hazardous, you can call 911, and I'm sure it'll be addressed. So probably not the answer you want to hear, but I just a lot of times when people are made aware of it, when the fire department shows up with a couple of police cars, it's a big deal, and they may just say, okay, maybe in the future I'm not going to do that. So. If that doesn't work, then we'll have another discussion,
Yeah. Okay, if there are no other public comments, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's enough, we're good, thank you, and good night, be safe, ladies and